Hello, I'm old Mr. Kent, and going on my morning E-Trike ride. And it's Sunday morning, and nice and sunshiny here in Arizona. It'll get too warm later today. So we're starting out in my son's backyard, and we got to go through a gate up here because his business is closed on Sunday, and then we'll get on out onto the road. So let's go ahead and get started. Um, in my last video, I made a few mistakes, and I'm going to have to correct for those mistakes in this video. But I've had a few things happen that I can tell you about. So here we're coming up to the gate, and so we'll just pause it right there. Pardon me. Okay, here we go. All right, should I just start now? We'll get out of the barking dogs. Anyway, this is Sunday morning. Yesterday, I got up early just as the sun was coming up. And make sure we got clearance here. Just as the sun was coming up, and I had ordered a couple of new inner tubes like the ones I put on the back, and I needed one for the front. And so I installed the inner tube on the front wheel, and also inserted the flat out sealant. And so that's all taken care of. So now, a lot of dogs. And so now all three tires are all set up. Get my bike all ready to go here. I call it a bike. I'm just gonna call it a bike. I rode bikes for so long. All kinds of bikes. Anyway, so it's all set up, except I need to explain something that I told it wrong. Because I misunderstood what I was looking at. Okay, so if you remember my last video, I said when I turn my bike over onto its right side to change the inner tube in the left tire, excuse me for coughing, when I turned it over, then the chain came off, the secondary chain. Now the primary chain comes from the pedals back to the motor, and on the other side of the motor there's a chain that goes back to the axle, and that's the secondary chain. Well, when I had the bike laying on its side, because the chain tightener wasn't tight enough, which, by the way, I have already adjusted and it's better now. Anyway, so the chain came off and jammed, and I got a motor error indication on my display. Dogs everywhere. So I thought, I didn't know what was going on, so I checked the manual and all that stuff, and so it said, pull the connections apart at two different places and make sure they're together tight. And I did all that, and it still didn't work. So then I tipped the bike over, and I pulled that cable out so I could look at it. And I should have taken a picture and studied a little bit. And my thought was that, and I put a picture up, that picture I put up in my last video was something I took off of electric e-bikes, and so it wasn't my bike. So here's a picture of my trike, okay? And it's, if you look carefully, you'll notice that the cable goes into, it's a little spring area there. It's got a spring on it. It goes into the axle of the motor before it even gets up to by where the chain was. And so I just thought was wrong, that the cable went in between the motor and the sprocket, which meant that that electrical cable would have got smashed up with the when the chain came off and jammed. It jammed, by the way. Couldn't get it apart very easy. Well, that wasn't the case. All that time that I was thinking that's what it was, I was wrong, because the cable goes in right at the axle, which is before the sprocket and before the motor, so it wasn't involved. So that's a good thing, actually, because I know that pardon me, I'm sorry. I've been having a lot of coughs lately. But anyway, so that wasn't part of the issue. That cable's still in good shape. I don't know why when I disconnected and plugged it in again, I still got the error. And then I disconnected and plugged it in again. Maybe I had it plugged in wrong the first time. But after I plugged it in twice, then everything worked. So either the motor error timed out and everything was okay, or the I don't know what happened. Anyway, so it's working fine, as you can see. And so I don't have to be too concerned about that cable, because it wasn't even part of the story like I thought it was. So I apologize for that. Let me see. So I got that taken care of. Got my, and my inner tubes and everything. I've got 15 pounds in the front wheel, and I've got 11 pounds in both back wheels. Now, remember, I put, if you watch my videos and follow them, there's some more dogs. If you follow my channel, and if you've been watching those videos, get around the corner here. I keep my tire pressure a lot lower than a lot of people do. I know it gives you a little less mileage per charge, but it gives me a smoother ride on my behind. And so, and you can't even see, I mean, the tires don't even bulge out that you can even measure. Well, you could measure it, I suppose. But anyway, you can't see it, and it gives a nice smooth ride. I learned that on my e-bike that I had. It had fat tires, and you can let a lot of air out of those. But anyway, so I wanted to point out that that's with the new inner tubes that I've got, that are thicker and more rubbery. That's what I've got my pressure set at. Okay, so got that taken care of and got that straightened out. Also, I had a person ask to keep making videos, tutorials on how to fix things and so forth. And so I said, okay, I'm going to be making a video on bleeding the brakes, and because well, let me back up and give you a little bit of story. Now I'll just stop right here. If you don't have one of these trikes, you notice how I'm rolling along. If I put this brake on and then pull that little notch right there, you can't move the bike. The back brake is locked. It's like an emergency lock, or just a parking brake. Okay, so so I thought that was pretty cool when I got my trike. Now I got to go back a year. So a year ago, right about now, I bought my first trike. And so I went into the winter, and every time I would park my trike, I would set both brakes so that it wouldn't roll in the windstorms, and it would, you know, if somebody tried to move it, they couldn't figure out how come it wouldn't turn, stuff like that, the wheels. So, anyway, then that, if you've been following my channel, you know that Electric Bike sent me a new trike because the other one had some issues, and so with the bearings. So I sent it back, and they sent me a brand new one, and this is the one I'm riding now. Well, I got it in the spring. Okay, so I started setting my hand brakes just like I did, parking brake just like I did before, and but then we got up temperatures during the day of up to 114 degrees. That, I think that's the highest we got where I live, that we saw on our thermometer. And so, so 114 degrees, that's pretty hot. Well, things expand in the heat. And so the front wheel brakes, the tube running down from the brake handle over here, down to the caliper down by the wheel, it's very short. And so so when this is my theory, okay, when the sun heated everything up and then cooled it, and heated it up and cooled it, with each day of summertime, that fluid would expand, and then it had nowhere to go. So I think it seeped through the seals of the calipers that go like this on the brake disc. Okay, when I pull the handle, it pinches the brake disc. Well, so it would expand and contract and expand. Well, every time it expanded, it didn't have any place to expand to, so it seeped through the seals on the calipers. Actually, there's only one caliper, but anyway, it seeped through the seal. And so then, when it would cool off, then it would contract, and it would suck air in through those same seals, because my bike, or my trike, got to where when I'd use my right or my front brake, it was spongy and it wouldn't stop because there was so much air in the system. And so that's my theory. How come? I mean, it didn't just leak out, because you know, there wasn't any drops or anything like that. Of course, it did leak out, but it was such a small amount each night or each day. So, as it turns out, then I bought a kit to bleed the brakes. And there's two ways you can bleed the brakes. You can bleed the brakes by, but this has got to be this brake handle. You could do it with this one too, but anyway, has to be level. And then there's a little screw at the top, and you take that screw out, and then you can see inside of the little. I'll just look at this one here. Inside of the little would be like I can't think of the word. Reservoir, okay, of fluid. And then when you pump the brake, well, then it pushes that the fluid from the reservoir down the line and pinches the disc. And then when you let go, it quits pinching. And so anyway, so their solution, the easy solution, was get this level, and they sent this little funnel thing that you could put in there, and make it hold. You put in a little bit of it's called mineral oil. Mineral oil of any kind will work, but what came with the kit was tinted red. And so the mineral oil, then what you do, I'll just show you here. What you do, using with that little funnel, here comes a car. What you do is you just pump the handle, and you pump it hard, but you do it a lot. And pretty soon you look down in that little funnel thing and you can see air bubbles coming up. So it actually works the air bubbles out of the system near the top of the system, and it actually helped. It actually got it got my brakes to where I could put them on nice and tight. Well, that was okay, and that's what I did until I started tipping my bike over to change inner tubes. When I got through doing that, then I had air was in the system, and so now let's see if I can get it. I can't get it. I can't show you. Anyway, so down at the bottom of the where the caliper is, there's another little screw that you can open, and then that if you leave it open, then all the fluid's going to drain out. So you have to work kind of fast, and then they give you a syringe, and so then you put the fluid in it, and then push the syringe, and it fills the whole system up. And of course, then you got your little funnel up here, and you can see how it's going up because you're pumping fluid in. I'm going to turn around here because I'm getting too close to the busy road. And so you had that. So that's the way you're supposed to do it, okay? And so I managed to get enough put in there that I had the brakes worked. That was the front brakes is all I had to work on. Excuse me. And so I got the brakes bled, but because I was new at it and hadn't done it before, as I was putting that the syringe into the bottom, well, then when I took it out and everything, in the process, I let more air get into the system, and so the brakes still weren't fixed right. And so yesterday morning, after I got the tire all changed, fixed up, then I was going to make a video showing what I had learned on that first time. I figured out what I needed to do to keep that air out of the system, and so I was going to make a video, but it was so hot out that my son said, "Well, just go in my shop and do it. Bleed the brakes in my shop and make your video in there." And so I did. So I got in there, and his shop lighting is so poor. I mean, it's good, but it's not good for making videos. And so I ended up. Now I'm going to turn around and go the other way. I think I'm about through. I ended up getting the brakes bled properly. Everything works now. I'll show you. We'll come to a stop with the front brakes. And by the way, that's because I got grease on the disc. But anyway, they work fine. And so if I didn't have grease on there, it would just grab and be nice and quiet. So anyway, what was I going to? So anyway, so I will make another video someday when the weather cools off. I can do it out in the sunlight. I'll make another video on how to bleed the brakes because I promised one of the viewers wanted to know some of that stuff, and I answered their comment and told them I'll be doing that right away. Well, so that's how it happened. I didn't get it made, but I will. But it's going to be when the weather cools down because right now this is September 1st. It's supposed to get up to over 100 again today. And I had a heat stroke many years ago, and so the heat I can't handle the heat anymore. All right, so anyway, I'm sorry I took so much of your time. I hope that you enjoyed the video because that's about more than I usually go. But I want to thank you for watching, and God bless.